welcome all, and thank you for being here today for this special meeting. Roll call.
Chair James,
Here.
Board Member Brinkley, Albert Brinkley,
Here.
Board Member Betty Brinkley,
Here.
Board Member Cooper, Board Member McCarty Grant, and Board Member Harvey.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Let's please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to take a look at our agenda. Approval of the minutes of October 1st, 2024, East Stuart Historic Advisory Committee minutes. Ask for,
For the record, City Attorney Lee Baggett, we need to do a motion for approval of the agenda and a second and vote on it.
I'm sorry, I skipped that part.
You did.
Approval of agenda, thank you, Attorney. Okay, approval of agenda. Motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chairman, I approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. It has been motioned and approved by Board Member Mr. Harvey and second by Board Member Mr. Albert Brinkley. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
All right,
Same procedure for
the minutes. Okay, approval of minutes for October 1st, 2024, East Stuart Historical Advisory Committee minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes have been approved by Board Member Mr. Harvey and second by Board Member Mr. Albert Brinkley, all in favor. All right, so next is comments from the public.
I have none, Chair.
Okay, no comments from the public at this time. All right, comments by board members.
Madam Chair, I just have a question for either attorney or Ms. Bernal. I need a real clarification with that hair program. Is that a loan or is that a grant?
It's a grant, so we would pay directly to the attorney that we have an agreement with.
Okay. Okay. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any comments, any other comments by board members at this time? I would like to make a comment at this time. First, thanking everyone that came out today again due to the fact that we're on the post side of the Hurricane Milton. And I'm glad to see everyone's here. Hopefully your families are well and you're well. And I just wanted to express my thoughts and prayers for you at this time, for all of us, not just here by Milton and Helene. Just, I wanted to bring that forth because that was really something right after our meeting for October 1st, our first meeting. Also, I'd like to ask that, and I'm not sure, an attorney, if you could help me with this. I don't know if this is where I should say this for comments by the board, but I'd like to see if we, and I do want to say thank you for this special meeting that was called and that we're here, but I'd like to also find out if this is opportunity to bring back something that Mr. Board Member Harvey shared with us throughout 2024, which is the Section 2 colored directory that he gave at one of our meetings that we never really had a chance to look at or even know what it's about. I'm still not sure how to read it and what it is related to, but I think it's important that we review this again and that maybe even come back either on our agenda or a special meeting, again, to take time to really take a look at this information. I believe it's very important when it comes to our history and actually documentation of the heritages of the families that lived in East Stewart in 1941, and maybe beyond. I just like to, I don't know if this is where I need to say it, but I think it should be brought back to us as a committee.
Are you referring to the two sheets that we received? Oh, I don't know what that
This
is.
we received at one of the meetings in, prior to October, was it April meeting? I'm not sure, but it was somewhere around the beginning of the year for 2024. Mr. Harvey had it, board member, Mr. Harvey shared it, but we didn't discuss it because I don't think it was passed out correctly, something like that.
Correct.
I'm not sure what that is.
That is the directory of the East Stewart community back in the late 30s, 1940s.
Right,
And that gives you an idea of who lived in the community
yeah.
and who owned the directory of the community,
Yeah, we
their
do.
households. And it gives a brief, detailed description of what those people, their occupations and address and telephone number.
Yes, I do have that directory in our file, which I can pull up right now. Let me see if I have a better copy.
And the reason I think it's important, not only because it's in alphabetical order, but also because we are a committee about preservation and our history, that this should be somewhere. Oh, is that it?
That's
We
it right
have
there.
it.
Oh, okay.
We have all the historic documents that has been provided to us in our East Stewart Historic Document folder. So this could be part of the discussion today. I don't really have any specific item to discuss. This is really a board discussion deliberation meeting on any buildings or sites or events that you guys, the board would like to recognize with the memorial marker. So, you know, I have this pulled up, so it could become part of our discussion today.
Okay, that,
I think,
I'm sorry, Attorney.
I think technically that it should be placed on an agenda at the next meeting. I think you should just get a consensus of the rest of the board to make sure that's what they want to do. Because I don't think it's been properly noticed under what's been marked for today. Today's for the buildings. This is the directory.
Right,
Obviously, we want to do something preservation, but you want to be technically correct under the law. I think we need to have a consensus, you know, if everybody is in agreement that it should come back on a future meeting, and then the next scheduled meeting we have, we can add it as a D&D item for discussion at the next meeting.
do I need to make a motion or something, or is
Yeah,
this not the time?
well, I don't know that you make motion. I guess, is everybody in agreement that you want this to come back at a future
This-
meeting?
I am in agreement
Okay,
with
so
it. You have
I
that?
think we can just add it to a future one, just so that we properly notice.
Right,
Technically, you're supposed to notify the public before you have a meeting to discuss stuff, and I don't think that's been noticed in for today's agenda.
no,
Because today's discussion deliberation on identify and honor buildings, existing or non-existing, or site structures or events of historical significance. I don't know that it necessarily falls under that, so
okay.
I think we need to put that on the next agenda.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I would like to see that on the next agenda. Thank you, Attorney. Sure. And that was my, one of my comments that I was concerned about. We not overlook this piece of information that was shared with the board And also, I'd just like to also say that with the, I believe, Phase 1 happening in 2025, with the Guy Davis Park in East Stewart on 10th Street, that, and I don't know, again, attorney, you can let me know, that our board, our committee, and I just like to see that we think about that big picture and what's going to happen with the Stewart Recreation Center. I think this would be amiss of us as a committee if we not think about really the full picture of the future and the present of this coming forth, and take a look at the name. It's the Guy Davis Sports Complex, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong. But I would like for us to think about adding to that, maybe an addendum to make it the Guy Davis Sports Complex, East Stewart Heritage and Learning Center, and I can tell you why. I think the heritage part and the learning part, because it's gonna be a teachable tool as we walk through, as we go out and celebrate many holidays and family reunions, and it's just a teachable, educational tool that's gonna be beautiful in our community, and to include that in not just as a sports complex. I don't know what the city's gonna do with the Stewart Recreation Center, but I would ask, and I will go before whomever I need to, as a community member born there in East Stewart, to recognize and maybe designating that as a heritage center, learning center, where we can go in there at certain times and learn about the history and have families still come and share their documentations. I'll use my family, for example. We gathered past weekends and we did our heritage and I filmed everything. And we just sat around, we weren't dressed up, it wasn't fancy. It was just talking about our part, the Hamilton, Oradell, Turner, Hamilton, Landers, my aunt, our heritage, and my grandmother, Mary Lee Hamilton, Barry Hamilton, and Harriet, slave girl that came here. So we documented, and I'm gonna turn it in, but it would be beautiful to have other families just sit around and get the camera, and we submit it either to Miss Jordan, you know, to record it as part of our heritage, and to have a place where people can take a break from the park at designated times, you know, according to what can be worked out with the city, where it's open, and maybe have it like a big picture, like at the Oceanographic, when you walk in there and see that big wall screen and it's moving and it's telling a story. I just think we need to not miss this opportunity with the funding that's going to be available each year toward our CRA fundings that we get through East Stewart as well, that we have designated areas to look at and go and visit and let it be teachable for our whole community, can be combined with the educational system where students in high school can get credits to come there and learn and teach, have a workshop. They're teaching their history, you know. They're learning their history. It's not in the school books in the state of Florida, for one, I understand. We don't get a chance to do that anymore. But that is my thought, and I will be bringing this back again and again and again and again, that we revisit the naming of the Guy Davis Sports Complex, to either add, and I may be using the wrong word, an addendum to make it public notice, you know, take it to the community. We shoot out some names. It doesn't have to be what I said. You know, everybody may have a different name for it, but include it as a heritage center, a learning center, because that's what's gonna be happening there for time after time after time. And that is my comment. Thank you for hearing me.
Madam Chair, I have to agree with you on that, because that's what I'm hearing from the community. They would like to see that type of stuff there. Matter of fact, I know someone, they spoke with me in here, that they have a lot of history, and I have seen some of that, and they said they prefer it to be there where the neighborhood, the community can see that, and they don't want to turn it over. They prefer it to be there. And like I say, that's what I'm hearing from the community. Would like to have stuff there, the history of the community there. And I think that's a real good idea.
My understanding is, at the park, there's supposed to be some identification of, on the pathway, the walkway of historical, people who were in the community, images of those people with, historical outlines of who they were and the parts that they played. Am I correct?
Right, there'll be a place designated to honor some of the pioneers and people that contributed to the East Stewart community. There's like a little plaza area that will have that information. But again, that's part of the public art project and will need input from this board as to who they want to recognize and provide narrative of what their contribution was in the community, so that way we can have element, some sort of art element to recognize them. I think it's one of those hands, I think those hand statue that you saw in the last presentation, that's where we would recognize those individuals.
But you
Well,
referring
I'm
to-
thinking, yeah, thank you, Board Member.
You referring something being in the inside.
Inside, right.
Yeah, that's yeah,
protected.
that's what I'm hearing from the community too.
Sure.
Having something in
Inside.
the inside of the building.
Right, yes, thank you, Board Member.
Okay.
Mr. Brinkley, and thank you, Board Member, Mr. Harvey, and thank you, Director, Ms. Pinal. Yeah, I'm thinking a step further, that it's for special times. You know, it may not be open every day, but when we have Emancipation Proclamation Day, it could be a part of when people want to have a reunion and they want to take their family out there, and if they meet with the city, get permission to know when it's going to be open, and you can go in. I don't know if anybody's been to the Oceanographic out there on the island. I used to go there when I was teaching with my students, but it's beautiful. It's gorgeous, and I don't see why we can't even resurrect something like that in our community on a smaller scale. But it's the building's there, all of the tools are in there, electricity is there, media is there. So it's not like you're gonna have to recreate the wheel. You're just gonna be designating certain, maybe do some art in there, you know, decoration, almost like a museum. But you can go in and have a cool down moment, like you've been in the park, okay, it's open. Maybe we can just take a bottle of water and go sit down and you push a button. Maybe it's in alphabetical order. I look for my family, Hamilton, go to H, and it pulls up our family talking about who we are in the community. The Brinkleys, push B. You know, even if it's a 5-minute clip or a 10-minute clip, I guess we could talk about how long we would want it to run. No more than 20 minutes, you know, for you to sit there per family. But I just think that is just, we would be amiss to not have this opportunity to do such a beautiful, beautiful part of East Stewart. And not just East Stewart, but the city of Stewart, Martin County. We're national now, from my understanding, in the registry as a historical
Not
place
yet,
for
we're-
East Stewart.
Right, we're-
So that should be there in the film. When you open it up, that's what we're talking about, you know. But I just think that it's so important that we not miss this opportunity, and I don't know where to take it, how to get it on the agenda, how to bring it, other than just, you know, the comments. I'd like to see it be more concrete than just a comment.
Sure. I know that with the aftercare program not being there, that really leaves a lot of room and opportunities to do other programs there, especially when the kids were there. You know, people couldn't be there until they were gone
Certain hours.
because of liability reasons. So I'll definitely bring this up with Jim Charlesky, who's the director of Community Services Department, and he's really in charge of that recreation center, and how Jessica and Mike Redstone, how they can kind of be involved in this process, and maybe just maybe creating a program first and just having people come out and share their stories. They have all the equipment there already, so they can record it. So I'll have that conversation with them. And then maybe even have them come attend the next meeting so that they understand what you're looking for in the programming, and they can work on that.
Okay,
So that could be on the agenda next time to look at some historic program at the recreation center.
yes, thank you. That would be great. And one of the phases, how we got 5 phases to
Yeah.
look at, but I thank you, and I think that's something, if our committee's okay with that, we can really start brainstorming on that and
Yeah, 'cause-
bring it together.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I have, I want to say this, it's illegal in the state of Florida to teach Black history. So why in the national be out there so we can learn, our kids can learn Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement and march and stuff out there? Because it's illegal in the state of Florida to teach that stuff about Black history, so. It's not illegal for us to, I guess, to put it out there in our neighborhood about it, 'cause can't go into school.
Right.
So something like that about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all of those great leaders and stuff like that.
We could put it
And the
there.
kids can learn from them what they did and what they went through and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
The only way they're gonna get
That's
it,
the only way we're gonna,
unless they leave out of state, and go to some school.
we teach it in our family, but I
Yeah,
think
our family and stuff like that, so.
well, us as a committee, I think it would be put on, to me, our hearts and souls and spirits to fill in the gap.
Yes,
That
so that's
if
one way
it's-
that we
yeah,
can.
the way could fill in that gap, and it's open.
And it's
and
important
it's
for we to know who.
And we can add to it, it can be a working tool that's not just from the past, present, but let's look at what our future looks like. So I thank you, thank you.
Just one more comment regarding the renaming or amending the name to add what did you say? Something about
Heritage.
the heritage, Easter Heritage and Learning Center. That could be something that, if that's how community feels, they can bring that up at the city commission meeting, and the city commission can direct city staff to come back with a resolution to city commission to amend the name to include that as part of when we do the Guy Davis Community Park Improvement Project. We're going to be also redoing the signage, so we can include that, the additional language on the signage.
Okay, so
But it would have to be, it's just like when Guy Davis Community Park, the community came out to the commission back in I don't remember what year. But the community felt strong that the park should be named after Mr. Guy Davis, and that's how, and it was passed by a resolution. So it would be the same process.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you for that information. So I think what I'm hearing from that is or either someone need to go to a commissioners meeting and get on their item or bring it up on the
Just during public comments,
comment.
and if you have a voice from the community that this is something that you would like to see, then the commission can direct staff
Okay,
to amend the signage.
all right, great. Okay, thank you, board members. Thank you.
Chair James,
Yes,
just
sir.
like we have public comment on our agenda, all the commission meetings have that, so you can go, and it's typically towards the beginning of the meeting.
Okay,
So I know some of our meetings have been going to midnight lately, so you might not stay there.
I heard.
But obviously, we have a commissioner in the room, she's heard you, but you could also reach out to the commissioners individually and discuss it with them. And they can bring it up at the meeting, when they have, just like you have board member comments, they have their board member comments and bring stuff up like that all the time. So
Okay, okay.
there's more than one way to skin a cat, I guess you could say.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah.
great.
I should use
Thank
a
you.
different term.
Thank you, attorney, I appreciate that.
Something I
Thank
want
you.
to ask
Okay.
Pernell.
I'm finished.
Ms. Purnell, I have a
Yes.
question,
Yeah.
a statement. We see about the historic part, we see the film of what you're doing. So there's a concept of the rest of the park. I would like to see, I can see what you're doing to the rest, other than the historic part, like the playground, the football, and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
What's going on with that, and what's gonna be out there with.
So, let me see, I do have that here. A little small to see. Can you see that? It's, so we have on the north side, I don't know if you can see that, it's a little small, but we have the proposed improvement, new entry signage on 10th Street. We're going to have a new resurfaced playground with aquatic play, some of the water features that the community wanted, and in the playground area. We have new restroom that's going to go on the north side of the park, and where we're also going to have the flexible stage area. We're going to have a stage area for performances, small or large, multi-purpose field, fitness trail with exercise equipment. We're going to have some nature trail where there could be educational component tied into the trail, mural that could be placed on that, the wall that's on the west side of the park. There's going to be some flexible event lawn where there could be green market and some events that can happen in the lawn area. There's going to be some picnic area. Just recently, the board approved to move forward with the skate park on the south side of the park near 14th Street, and new parking area. So those are some of the new improvements that'll be part of the overall park improvement project. Is that what you're looking, is that the question? Am I answering your question?
I'm listening for, I heard a water pack, what you're putting out there for the kids and stuff out there, what kind of activity? That's what most I'm concerned about, what you got for the young people.
Right, so it's
They
good.
can be doing out there, cause, like I say, they're gonna be focused so long on the historic, us other people gonna be more looking at that. So keep the young generation occupied, something to do. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so we're going to resurface the parking, the playground that's there right now. We're going to improve some of the playground equipment, have some aquatic, like water feature added to the playground area. There's going to be a pavilion, so if, if family wants to do a birthday party out there, they could also have some small events. Restroom, there's going to be a trail if somebody wants to just get some exercise in. Stage area, multi-purpose field for a lot of different sports for all different ages of kids. So those are the activities that we have built into this park.
Thank you.
Thank you, board members. And I'd just like to piggyback a little bit off of that, what I think, and I may be missing it too, but I think you're concerned about what the children can actually do. Will there still be a playground or something even bigger than just the average little swing set and slide? Will it be more interactive for different grade levels or ages? Not just the little kids, what
Right.
would the teenagers be able to
Exactly.
do? And I know that they said it's a water park that's gonna become, a skate park that's gonna be integrated.
The skate park will be for, from beginners to advanced, so that's another area that the kids will have an opportunity to interact with other kids.
Yeah, okay.
It'd be nice to have somewhere to go out there and ride the bicycle and stuff like that and the thing. out there.
bicycle
They have
trail.
Right, so the trail, you
Trail
could
and
use a trail for the bikes.
Okay, we'll be walking trail and bicycle trail.
right,
So that would be, again, I think that's something that we need to continue to make sure those things are there for us, and it's meeting the needs of all ages in the park. And we can also come back, and I think, and I don't remember seeing that in the map or whatever, in the scope, in the schematic plan, how about a big concrete area that's made like a checkerboard, and there are checkers there. Everybody can play
Different games
that.
on it.
Different games of backgammon or chess. And it's designated areas, and they have to check out those pieces, be responsible for them. Or if they really heavy, or bring your own. Some of them be so heavy you can barely roll them across, but you don't have to worry about them walking away. But I think those would be things that all people could interact. Little ones, I taught my sons little how to play chess,
That's something.
and you can read it, you can have directions up there. So it becomes a little more educational as well. So I think that's something else that we can also keep alive and as we could move forward with our park.
That is something we are proposing on the north side of the park, but it's a second phase. But it is something that we've already appropriated space for.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
you did look at that.
Because
Good
that
point.
comment did come up when we did outreach meetings, so it's there. It's just not going to be part of the initial phase.
Wonderful. Yeah, I know there are many phases.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, even what I just brought up may not show up until phase 4, phase 5, but it's in there.
It's in there. It's
It's
all
in-
going to be built in, so it's just, as funding becomes available, we can do it in phases.
Okay. And thank you again for bringing that up, board member. And attorney, if I don't mind, I'd like to ask you, and I just heard about, funding. So, I don't know if there's a place, or we go to the commissioners or the fiscal annual budget for this particular project or any that happens in a comprehensive plan and the CRA monies, if money can be designated at certain points, and it's something I need to bring up here, or do I need to, again, go to the commissioners that money's outlined for certain projects to keep those things flowing?
Under your duties and responsibilities as of this board, you are to make recommendations to the director of the CRA, Ms. Pinal over here. You can bring it up in these. Obviously, there's a commissioner in the room here listening. Almost any option that you mentioned is a way of going about it. If you show up at a budget meeting, that's one way, but they do have throughout the year budget amendments that they vote on.
Okay.
You've probably seen that term, and we have them periodic throughout the year because things come up.
Right.
So that would need to be something brought up to the commission or the CRA board itself, which includes all 5 commissioners and 2 other members from the CRB board.
Okay.
They have joint meetings. I think they have one next week.
Next Monday.
Yeah, next week we have one, I think, with the joint, and it's right before the regular commission meeting. So just like a public member would come up here and speak to y'all, you could do that to mention it. I've seen it done, various groups from time to time since I've been here for a year, so that seems, especially when multiple people show up about the same thing, it seems to get their attention, but that's one way.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Attorney. And I would like to acknowledge our Commissioner, Commissioner Clark. Hello and welcome, and thank you for your attention to our meeting. And any more comments from the board? All right. Then we'll move on with, those were non-agenda items, and now we can move into our agenda item.
The agenda item was just for the board to identify and so we can honor some buildings, events, sites that played a historic significance in the community. So it's for your discussion and giving staff direction as which building you want to identify and providing the photos and the narrative. So then staff will be responsible for actually getting this cost for the memorial marker and fabricating it. But we would need the information from this board as to which building, or it doesn't have to be existing. It could be something that we lost, or, it's been demoed since
Okay, could I,
in the past.
because I'm ready to get to that point. My George and Emma White, that's why I brought this information in. They're one of the leading historical families in the community. They had a house on Church Street. They had 16 children, 16 or more children. 10 of them became in the professional world, doctors, lawyers, and one of the children from that community became very in the medical field. His name was Jack White, and the family, George and Emma White, really focus on the education of the community, of the East Stewart community. They help the Stewart Training School develop its educational program, working with Mr. Charles E. Murray. I would like to admit their name and their family location as one of the historical sites. It's nothing existing. Back in 1995, there was an existing building, but eventually something happened and it was torn down. But this paper that I brought in this afternoon, reveals their history of what happened to that building, and the number of family members, kids that came out of that family that went on to become college graduates and doctors and lawyers, and played a very historical part in medical and legal world. And they came from Martin County.
It's good you brought that up, because that was one of the recommendations that I was gonna bring up, because we lived next door to them. In this picture right here, there was a house on the, if you stand in the front of the park, there was a house that's the only house that's still standing right now, that they lived in that house also. This was the two-story house here. But the house, is just one house on that street that is still standing to this day. They lived in that house because we was next door. As kids, we was next door to the whites there, and that was one of the recommendations. But I'm just wondering how we're gonna go about this, street by street, because you don't want to leave, because there's so much important history there. You don't want to leave nothing out.
Right, that's what she's asking for us to bring about all the historical elements, people who played a very important part in this community, identify them. And so, like you said, the whites, they were very outgoing. They believed in education. And their children were producers of that education. They came from Stuart Training School on the directory of Charles E. Murray.
Where was this house located? I have the Google map pulled up.
That's Church Street.
The one that's still there now?
No, yeah, the one that's still, and this was next door. This was next door.
There was that's George and Emma. It's not existing right now, but it's a vacant lot.
Yeah.
But there's a house next door to it. That's what the sister owned at one time, and that's still existing. And the information I shared today is the history of the family, and at one time, the family approached the city of Stuart, and they wanted to give it to the city of Stuart so it could become a historical museum. That was a historical museum. Like I said, they had 16 kids. It was a 6-bedroom house. And after the kids went off to education, some of the educators, teachers, and would live in that house so that they in turn would go and educate the kids at Stuart Training School. It was a place where the teachers could come and live until they got their feet on the ground and got their own house.
And also, Mr. George White was a tailor. Between him and Mr. Lorraine Hamilton used to do the dry cleaning. George White used to do the tailoring for the white people. So but my point is, how are we gonna do this street by street where we won't leave nobody out? That's what's my question.
Right. Yeah.
Street by street, starting with Martin Luther King.
So we can, stay where we can take a look at this particular land now, Church Street. Is there any way to pull that up?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where exactly on Church Street. You said it's not.
Across the street from Martin Luther King Park, directly across the street,
Is it on
on
Church?
the north side.
Find East Avenue. You know where East Avenue is?
Right, so I'm right here, East Avenue and Church Street.
Okay, go down right there. There you go.
Right here, this parcel?
This is around the corner from my house, which is on Central Avenue, is right,
I see you got your dot. Where's your
This
dot?
is Church Street, this is.
Right
East-
there, that's Church Street, that right there, that's Church Street and East Avenue. Go west, go west. No, no,
this is
right there, go, no, a little bit low, right there, that's where that dot is, where your hand is, that's the house.
The house is no longer there.
Right.
but they do have one that they
Yeah, but-
had, is still, that's the only house left there that was on that street. It's
belongs
still,
to the white.
that belongs to the white. It still exists today. That's the only house on that street that was built during that time that exists today. Someone lives in it.
So do we have photos? Do we have narrative that the board can put together for the next meeting to discuss, as far as we have to kind of put this together for,
Yes.
we're gonna
Yes.
recognize this site where they lived?
So, Mr. Harvey, you say we do have, you
I
have
have some,
narrative
I have some photos.
and information
I've
that
been in
could be.
contact with the family, and the family, I say, upon this, they offered the house to the city of Stuart to make it a museum, and I guess they accepted it at one point, and they had contractors to go in and look at the house. They approved it, but eventually it was torn down. I don't know the reason why.
The original house.
So if you read that article, and we can get somebody to pull up this article, it will go into detail and explain some of the things. That's what I was trying to do. Contractors declared house can be restored. And this was in 1995.
Okay, so that's in this
And the
article.
family had agreed to give it up to make it a museum, to create it, develop it, rearrange it to become a museum.
Two-story home.
Wood frame home.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to ask a question. So am I hearing that, with your question, Mr. Brinkley Albert, that you were saying that we come up with the idea of what street we want to start with and just focus on that street? And I heard you say MLK, but should we include this also? Because we have this in front of us?
already have it, absolutely.
Yeah, and then, for, what's, our meeting here about putting, structures or some type of marker, would that be possible for identifying the house that's still there now as part of the old house that the whites owned and lived in, that's historic now, that's still there? And also the house that's non-existing, and if it's next door to that house, it's the property, still there? And that we could identify that property as within what we're talking about today, non-existing sites and structures of historical significance? Would there be a way to do that, Ms. Pinal?
Right, so what we're trying to achieve here today is if you can select, maybe even just, you could discuss other properties or sites you want to identify and prioritize, but even if we can just focus on one, and then, if this is the site we want to recognize, 415 Southeast Church Street, then we want to look at doing some sort of monument marker or something like this that we would put in the city's right-of-way, because we can't put something on private property. And if you look over here or on the screen, we would need the picture of what existed there, because that's what's going to create interest, and then some sort of history. Why are we recognizing this site? What's so significant about this parcel? And what's gonna, we need to kind of create interest where people will be interested to stop and read what existed in the past. So I don't have that information, so that's something I would rely on you to provide, as far as photos and content.
Well, I think that's what Mr. Harvey was saying he can do.
Okay,
So
then,
if that's the case, then we have the evidence
right,
to
exactly.
move
So then,
forward with doing that.
exactly. So then if that's the one you want to start with, we could just start with that. Once Mr. Harvey provides that content to me, we can coordinate with a sign company to get a quote, and try to budget that and fabricate the sign. Like, we would present it to you, this is what the proof looks like. Does the committee agree with the content, with the narrative, the photos? You would approve the proof, and then we would get it fabricated.
Am I understanding that correctly from our board, Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
And Mr. Brinkley, that this is where we would like to start our point of interest? And then move into, let's see what else is on Church Street, since we're there, and cover that, and then move into another area, like you said, MLK, because MLK is going to come up in the streetscape.
Correct, yeah.
So in that portion of the phase, I think we're really going to need to do fine tooth combing through MLK to go back to those, I've heard so many people from the community talk about that was the hub of businesses in the Black community. And I don't think we should run past that. I think we really need to look at that. We need to find those places that existed, find the narratives, like you said, find the evidence, put something there. But we need to really make sure that's included in that streetscape project that money's already designated as part of the plan to make sure we incorporate that thoroughly. I thank Mr. Harvey for bringing in this information about Mr. George and Miss Emma White and Mr. Brinkley for sharing, because I'm younger. I don't even know this. And this is where I said that learning center is so important. I don't know this part of my heritage. I didn't know we had doctors and lawyers coming off Church Street, and I'm even not the youngest in the community. So if I'm not aware of it, we need to educate.
Okay.
And we need to make sure we're not missing anything.
Yes.
We're not leaving any rocks, any stones uncovered. And if this is what it represents, something like that plaque, and you say to gain interest, I believe once people see what we're doing and see these things popping up, they're gonna be interested. From our people, we nosy, we wanna read it and know what it's about. And why is that there? So I think our part as the committee is making sure that it is there, it is talked about, and it is brought up, and it is put in the newspaper. We are, media, we're trying to get them out here. But I think that that's part of, if I'm not mistaken, what this committee is about, is making sure that we don't leave anything and anybody unnoticed from past and even beyond me, because I'm not even aware of this. I don't even know how to look at this house because I've never seen it before. I can't even put it in where it belongs in East Stuart. But I want to know. It's my heritage.
And Madam Chair, and that's why I say it's so important to go from street to street, because like I say, I was neighbors, we was neighbors of them. And a lot of people don't know, Mr. Bobby Dawson was part of this family. He was a pharmacist right on the corner of Kenner Highway and US 1 there. And he was part of that family. A lot of people don't.
even miss that.
Yeah.
That he
So,
was a pharmacist.
yeah.
So, and we have some people here. I'm so proud that, they were there, like they say, when they were children. It missed me, but they have their stories. They have what they remember. And Mr. Harvey, thank you and all of us for doing our work, have evidence to prove things. And I don't want to miss out on the opportunity. Mr. Harvey shared something with us that our secretary took a picture of. And I don't know if this can help us to identify more of those areas and not miss anything. Mr. Harvey, that zoning,
Yes.
big blow up, if we have time for you to talk about that, and so, 'cause that can help us.
Who am I? I used to hang out at the Stuart Heritage Museum, and I'm a little historian. And this was one of the documents that was found in the back that this was a community director. And I've shared it with City of Stuart now, they have it, and so I have a lot more stuff, but I gotta find it. Like I say, this past week, a lot of my stuff got beat up, and I'm trying to find it. So I have a picture of the house.
And Mr. Harvey, thank you, I'm sorry, Board Member,
So-
Mr. Brinkley. Mr. Harvey, I want to say thank you again. Mr. Harvey was one of the victims of Milton that lost his property. So he lost a lot of things that he was laying out for us for this meeting. And now he has to go back and kind of recreate the wheel again. So I just want to acknowledge that we may need a little more time because he does have evidence. But because he was one of the victims in his home and things were away with Milton, now he has to go back and recollect. So thank you, Mr. Harvey, and Mr. Brinkley.
Madam Chair, I want to ask Ms. Pinal, a lot of this stuff, if it privately owned now, how would you go about handling that situation for us? Markers letting these properties be known, if not, is it privately owned now? For instance, I was also, well, let me take the I away. We was also neighbors of the Murrays on Martin Luther King there, but now that's privately owned there, and that definitely cannot get overlooked, because they wasn't just educators, they were entrepreneurs. They had a store, the building still exists right now on East Avenue there. You know, they had a funeral home across the street from my house, you know, so that's why I say it's so important to hit street by street so you don't leave anyone or anything out. And I was just, in their house, which still exists today, but it's owned by the Bells, and that definitely cannot be left out.
We'll also need to get permission from these private property owners to
Okay.
put these signs, because they might not want people stopping and looking and,
Right.
invasion of privacy, So,
That's why I asked
that's
that
why
question.
I feel like, this is a good starting point for 15 Southeast Church Street. It's a learning experience for staff too, because we haven't done something like this. If we can start with one, kind of understand the cost, how the process is going to work, then we can start, and at the next meeting, we can identify another site or two or three sites and prioritize, and then just keep moving forward in that direction. And then, because it's going to require for us to coordinate with the property owners too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I asked that question,
yeah.
because somebody might not want.
Right, they might not want it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's hard to get a hold of if it's a vacant parcel. We'll look on property appraiser's site and try to, unless you can provide the contact information of who owns that 415 Southeast Church Street. Are they even here
Yeah,
locally? Yes, I would
yeah.
need their contact information to see if they would be interested to partner with the city as far as allowing us to put something in front of their property.
at one point.
It will be on city's right of way, so it's not like we're gonna be on private property. Similar to Mr. Tim Allen's home, we have that blue sign
man.
there. That's on city's property. But we wanna do something different. We wanna really have a more aesthetic signs.
Yeah.
So that's how we wanna start this project. It won't look the same.
Well, the property now is in the hands of, what's his name?
Odom?
No, that has your, former, plaza there. That's who got that piece of, this right here. What's his name?
It says owner is
this street.
Sahir Wahid. Is that? I don't know.
Sam.
Oh, it is Sam, yeah.
Yeah, Sam.
Okay.
I can talk to my neighbor because, like I say, they work together. The Whites and the Hamilton. The Hamilton did the dry cleaning. The White did the tailoring, and they took the White. They brought the White people stuff in there, and they Mr. Lorraine Hamilton did the dry cleaning, and Mr. George White did the tailoring. I used to stand out there as a little kid, stand out there and watch Mr. Lorraine Hamilton dry clean, and I know the people that lives in that house there. So when I go home, I can talk with them and see would they like to have something like that done on their property.
Yeah, that's great. If you can actually already have that conversation with somebody, then it's much easier to work with that.
Yeah, that's why I say I
Yeah.
talk. That's my neighbor, so I will have a conversation with them
Yeah.
to see what they'd like to have something like that there. Because I still reflect back on a kid standing there watching him dry clean there, because they lived in the back and in the front was the dry clean. The building is still existing, but it got a little arranged when a fire happened there. But I still see that to this day. I used to walk around. I was living on the front. I used to walk around there and watch him dry clean.
Yeah. So an old image, something like an old image of him,
Yeah,
you know,
that's-
something like that would be more interesting to put on the plaque.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, do you want to go street by street, or do you want to just start with one and come back with, talk to some of the property owners that are interested in doing this, so that way, and if there was something historic there, then we can work on those projects? Because once a community sees 2 or 3 signs, they're gonna be more interested in it, right? So it's just getting started, you know? I would just hate to spend so much time in identifying and then, you know, people are not interested. So even if we can just get 1 or 2 signs out there and really publicize that, I think that can really get the word out and create more interest in the community.
Yeah, and Mr. Brinkley, thank you for saying you have some contact with that family. But I guess what I'm hearing is, do we need to vote on just making sure that we're starting street by street and not sporadically all over the place from our board?
I would rather you don't go street by street, because the reason why I gave you that directory is for you to look and remember the names, ask some questions about some of the names. It tells you if there was a business or if it was a resident. And some of them identify as a resident and some identify as a business. So, and they play different characteristic parts in the community. The next name I was going to suggest would be Mr. Scott. Famous gentleman who worked 75 years at Mon Memorial Hospital. That gentleman played a very, very important part in the development of the community of Stuart. His picture is posted at now it's Cleveland Clinic, but now his picture is posted at Cleveland Clinic North. When you go into the reception area, go in. His picture is there. He played a very important part in the community and at the hospital. And I'm researching that now so I can share.
So is that, like, some things might fit better in the museum, where if we have a wall or something, you know.
He has several buildings. He built
Okay.
Yes,
several buildings in the community.
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
still there, right?
That's still existing.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And part of it should also be part of the museum. And these are things that we can, look at and say, yeah, this is something we want in the museum. And we need to have that story told, and then we have documentation. And I appreciate again, and so what I think I'm hearing board member Mr. Harvey say is, let's take our directory that I brought up at the beginning of the meeting. You have it in alphabetical order. So do you want to,
Whatever you want. You guys.
okay. Should we
want
go
the-
ABC order?
Yeah, the
You know,
committee, get to know and ask questions
Yeah.
at our next upcoming meeting. And we can share, and you learn, and you'll know who, Mr. Albert, Mr. Brinkley, we know.
Yeah,
We have inquired, and we know some of the old residents.
Right.
But what if they're not in that directory? See, that's another thing too. What if they're not in there? Like some business, whatever historical thing is not in
It's
there.
in there. It's in there. It goes that far back.
So it goes from 1941 and beyond.
Yes,
have the information
1930,
that we can
yeah, some of the.
Back it up. Well, I don't know. I'm okay with if we go in the order of the directory and the zone that's up there now. I think they go hand in hand some kind of way that can help us really be able to prove evidence.
Do you have a copy? Am I speaking out of line? Do you have a copy of that director,
No,
of
have
that
nothing,
particular
so I
director?
can't say anything about it because I don't have a copy.
Okay,
Well, I need to look at something, so.
right. Ms.
I don't have
Cornell,
a copy of it. either. So
I have it. We
they
can-
made a big picture of it when we started, but I don't have a copy.
I know a lot of business because I down on Martin Luther King was down there, you know, restaurant,
Yeah.
dresser and all that kind of stuff, you know. But for me to see it, I haven't seen it.
Would it be possible, like the baseball field, would that be able to be marked? Because that's history there.
Yeah.
You had black people going to play on certain days, as you recall. That was
Yeah.
weekend. That's the only time we was able to play on that field was weekend. So that's a lot of history there. That's why I say that field should never be torn down or whatever the case may be. We was able to play on that field on Saturday and Sunday. We practiced out to 10th Street if we didn't practice there, but that was the only time we was able. But there was some joyous times, 'cause across the railroad track, you had WSTU with Mr. Odom on the radio. So we've made good of those 2 days that we was able. So that's a lot of history on that field there. That's a lot of history that should never be destroyed there. That was history.
baseball field?
Are you
Yeah.
talking about Selfish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember,
Yeah,
we
you're
gonna,
right.
we gonna play on that field on weekend.
The one that's.
And I'm living across the field.
that-
I'm living across the field. But we going to play on that field on Saturday and Sunday. And that field is in the community, but we only had the existence to play on that field Saturday and Sunday. So that's a lot of history there also.
I think that's something we should add in there as far as making sure that that's a marker or some type of representation. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the Selfish
Yeah.
baseball park that you're talking about.
That's why I was referring, can that be marked? Because that's history there.
Some type of marker or something with evidence that I'm sure the city probably has or somewhere.
I'm not
First.
sure. I wouldn't know.
Mr.
I'm
Harvey
looking at you,
played, I
you younger
played,
than
so
me.
we know about.
The only thing is with Sailfish Baseball Field is that we're going to be improving along MLK. So it wouldn't make sense to put a sign there right now just because the sidewalks and all that is going to be improved as part of the MLK Streetscape
Oh,
project.
okay, that's part of this.
Um,
We need to-
Right, so, and I don't think you would want it on Georgia Avenue, I think you want it on MLK. So that's definitely something that would be part of the MLK Streetscape project. When we work on that, we could identify a location where a marker could go. But it doesn't mean that you can't have the content and photos ready to go. So that's something the committee can work on.
Does that answer your question, Board Member Brinkley, that we can make sure we keep that inclusive with the MLK streetscape? That everything comes beautified and announced, and that gives us time to do some evidence? So, yes. Okay, so from my understanding, I guess I'm still trying to get clarity. I don't know if we need another special meeting. I don't think we meet again until 2025. And from my understanding, and I don't know, maybe Commissioner Clark could help us. I don't know if this board is still gonna look like this or what it's going to look like. I don't know if things have changed. I don't know what happens in 2025. So,
Well,
Yes, Commissioner, you can help us.
Disrupt your meeting, so, hi.
Hi.
So, a couple of things. On, I think it's December the 12th, we'll have our organizational meeting for the next year. And typically, groups like yours, it's just a year, every year would kind of get redone. And also the members get redone. Each commissioner has an opportunity to appoint someone to this committee. And so you can always talk to the commissioner who appointed you before, if they're still on the commission. I know we have 2 new members on the commission. So if you're appointed by Commissioner Bruner or Commissioner McDonald, they're not here anymore. But what happens is that the clerk always takes new application, updated application, to request to be on an advisor board. So make sure that you have your thing in so that they know that, number one, you're still interested in being on an advisor board, and also let the commissioner who represents Commissioner Bruner and Commissioner McDonald, let them know that you were appointed by these commissioners and that you want to still be on the advisor board. And so that's important. And if you're appointed by somebody else, then, you know, tell them, hey, I'm still interested in participating. Because every year we can always change the people who are there. So just let your commissioners know that you're interested in doing that. I have one thing that I just wanted to share with this committee. And I know that Dr. Grant is still working, and she's my appointment to this board. She works at Stuart Middle School. She said she was going to try to come sometime after 4, but I can imagine how that is. But she, as you know, Mr. Perez finished the artwork on the side of their building, the mural on Martin Luther King. And they were doing some work on their property, and there are some other things. I'm hoping that we just get a time to, we were trying to do this in September and October, and now we're at the end of the year, just to have one afternoon or a Saturday morning or whatever to recognize that mural cutting or whatever. But she knows exactly what they're doing on their property and when we can do that. And I know that you're not going to have another meeting, but if I can work something out with her, you know, you'll hear about it, that the city will just try to facilitate a little something there. But it's so important. What I discussed with her and Pinal maybe 2 months ago, I don't know, it seems like a long time, that we'd really, each time we do a little thing in the community, it's an opportunity to introduce this group to the community, because that's why it's so important, because we really want to have the voices and the ears and eyes in the community who are looking at the historical character of the community and making sure that the community maintains a certain historical character, which is a part of the fabric of Stuart. And everybody's worried about gentrification. Everybody's worried about, you know, whether or not there's a railroad station, whether there's more of this or changes in real estate. And so it's so important that when we have impactful things happening and things that will draw attention, positive attention to the community, that we have people people know who to go and talk to, people know who to come to and say, hey, I'm a part of this family or that family that started in the East Stewart area. Let's say the Thompson family, Jay Thompson is not here anymore. And so, I want to give you some information. So I wanted to use that as another little coming out to talk about the committee, and then to talk about that, to talk about the mural and give a little history of it. And maybe have a few people talk about different people who are on the mural, some of the faces that are put there. And I know one of the big things, of course, is baseball across the way. When the mural was just being painted, it was like the start of the baseball season at the park. And I think Althea Wiley and some other people were trying to do something there, and then somehow the McCartys had to do something to the building. So we never got to coordinate some of the things. We're trying to coordinate to try to revitalize Martin Luther King along there and coordinate some things with, when they have baseball. People could even come across and do something, have an ice cream or do something if they put out something there. They were trying to do a little food truck ever so often. So it's just something, something to be worked on. So that's just something that's in the works. So if Kim were here, like I said, she would get us some information, but that's not happening right now. There was one other thing that I thought about, but I can't remember it right now, and I didn't write it down. But basically, it kind of has to do with the entire history thing, and I know that we had the historical committee to emphasize East Stewart, but I think Faye, I don't know how many times you've said it, but I heard you say it like 2 or 3 times in this meeting, that it's not just Stewart, it's Martin County. And so we have the Stuart Heritage, Black Heritage Group, and they're very interested in doing things in Martin County. They've done in Port Salerno. They've had the historic sending to the national, and same thing like we're doing in Stuart, and there wants to be a very close coordination. One of the big things that's related to East Stuart is the, and I think Mr. Brinkley mentioned the Maury, is the whole idea of what Spectrum School and what Spectrum School as a Rosenwald school, and some of that information you saw when I had the town hall and the consultant was there and he brought that up, what that represents. And we had thought about potentially talking to the school board about seeing if they don't want to use Spectrum anymore for certain things, what would it cost to try to work something with the city and work with the community to maybe use that, either the whole section or a portion of it as a museum or whatever. So that's an idea. The other idea for like a museum type thing is that 2-story, well, actually 3-story Scott House. When the Women's Club used to do the historic house tour thing, they kind of stopped it because of some liability issue that happened one year. But I think 2014 was the last year that they did that. The Scott House was included in that tour. And you went to the basement and then the first floor and then up. And they were using it at that time for veterans. I think they had men there. But that house is something that whenever we can figure out a grant or do something, Pinal, we can try to see if Mr. Gore would oblige us and keep it available, because that's the thing that has happened, especially in the Black community. And I don't want to bring up a whole bunch of stuff because people are complaining and talking about the property where Willie Guerra's thing used to be. People have not been wanting to keep their property preserved and wait until there's an opportunity. And sometimes the city doesn't always have the money and they have to apply for grants. And by the time that happens, somebody sells their property or does something else with it. And people are looking at the city and saying, you didn't do this. So people do need to keep that. So, I mean, Mr. Gore, you know, he may want to do something else with that property, but it would be a prime thing right on the corner there at Church Street. Even Mr. Harvey's property that he has there that used to have the building bridges, that's another part. The Scotts were there. Mrs. Gainey lived there when she taught at Spectrum School, and then the Scotts built the other house across the street. So there's a lot of history right in that corner, but we'll have to wait to see if we have the grants and the money. If we can't get something like the entire Spectrum or part of Spectrum as a museum, maybe we can start working. But the other thing is, as Mr. Brinkley has said, about trying to come up with something and doing that partnership, that is something, and I know the things that you're looking at here is just historical committee stuff, that's what you're charged with. It requires doing a whole separate, whether it's a nonprofit group or whatever it takes, just like the Friends of Memorial Park or something, to really get that in groove, to really get some of those things done, to work on a museum, to work on certain things, and especially when it comes to museum, really whether it's privately separate from this committee, from the city, or maybe it can be together, Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones' group needs to be so involved, and we need to have an official thing, working with the city and working with them. And we can always work, I've been working with him and Mr. Harvey behind the scenes to try to make sure that things are included. But we need to give Mr. Jones a reason for him to really concentrate on the city, and that's the content that we need to pull together. We need to pull that content together of a lot of information about the history of Stuart so that we can have it and say, hey, this is a good thing.
I heard you mention about Spectrum there. I'm already hurt as is when the front part got torn down. That shouldn't have never been torn down. That was history that got torn down. Because those type of buildings, it's the same type that's on East Ocean on Stuart Middle School property. That was the elementary in the front, high school in the back, and that still hurt me to this day. When I walk by there, to see those buildings was torn down. And if they don't want that, I would like for the city
Well, that's what, yeah.
to get that and make that. Definitely would be nice for historical, something to be put there, because it's bothered me to this day, because that shouldn't have never been torn down.
Yeah, and then that's why we need all these things, and we have to have some things tight so that when we get an opportunity, because if the school board decides to change something, and the school board are their own government, let's put it that way. When they have to do things, they don't seek permits, they go to Tallahassee, they have their own system, and they can knock down and do whatever they want, and they build whenever and however. The school board is kind of like under their own, is that right?
Government.
The school board does their own thing when they build their schools, and they send their plans to Tallahassee.
They comply with.
Huh?
They have their own budget,
Yeah,
contractors and everything.
yeah. So we have to be, always keep a close relationship so that we know what they're doing. And that's why we're trying to talk to Mr. Main and find out what their long-term plan is and how soon, if they want to change their school plan system and move things around, it's important to know if they're going to do anything in their plant facilities, because we can't afford, we've got the McCarty Pharmacy went down, everything along Martin Luther King basically went down, and we can't afford to keep knocking down everything in East Stewart,
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely.
And we can't afford to wake up one morning and have the school board just knock down the whole thing.
Absolutely.
But we got to have voices, and we've got to know what they're doing, or tell them what our interest is. And if there's something that can be done with an acquisition and money's coming in over time, that's what we need to work on. So there's some planning efforts, and there's this thing that we need to do now. The other thing, just in your efforts, Pinal, and I appreciate what you guys are doing, and it's your committee, and we'll hear from you when you get your ideas together. You'll come back to the commission. If I'm still on the commission, then I'll be glad to listen and push forward anything. But I wish and I hope, and I think Mr. Harvey had the right idea, that, and it's there, but it's not quite there. We really need, and Mr. Brinkley too, he talked about streets, Phil talked about businesses, but I really wish that we just had like a pen and paper and write down 10 businesses or 10 families or 10 something, just write it down on a piece of paper, and then we'll look at it and say, yes, this is what you're talking about, the Simpos or the Greens or the Thompsons or whatever, or the corner of here or there. Just write it down, 5 things on a piece of paper, and let us know. That's what we need. You know, Miss Alice Curry's place, All Britain, anything. The old hospital where Jerry Gore has his ABC Learning Center. Anything at all. If you could just scratch it out, 5 or 6 things on a piece of paper, it would be helpful, because I'll sit down with Pinal and try to go through some of that and explain to her what some of that means. But if we could just really just write it down, even if you don't have all the content, even after this meeting, if you could just write it down, let us know. It would be so important. Mr. Richard McCarty's old house, the whole McCarty's pharmacy. I think we have 3 or 4 that we actually recognize in the East Stewart plan. Even where Miss James lives, behind there, the Hall, Mr. Hall and his wife live there. We have the community garden there now. And it's not gonna go away. We hope it won't go away. And it's a nice thing on the corner. I remember him when he was very active with the NAACP, but it's right there on the corner. So I think it's just critical to just sit down and write down 5 businesses, whether it's a bait and tackle shop, whatever it is, 5 businesses, 5 people or families that you think were crucial to that area. Just list them. And let's go from there. And then we can have an overall picture so that we can then, pick something. Because if you pick the white family, that this is just silly. But the green family is going to say, why didn't they pick us first, okay? And there's actually a white family and a green family, and they're blacks too. So, it's just it's just surnames, people. I'm not trying to be funny. These are just real surnames of people.
And that's why I was saying, and I understand him, Mr. Harvey with the director there, and that's why I brought up the point about street by street where no one can be left out. And I understand, Mr. Harvey, with the director, and that's good also, because even on Martin Luther King right there, not too far from where I live at, if you go there, you'll still see that piece of asphalt there, what used to be the taxi stand, Mr. Homer Thompson, Mr. J. Thompson brother,
yes.
that piece of asphalt, from this day, from the time I was a little kid, that piece of asphalt is there where the taxi stand used to be. So that's why I say Martin Luther King is so much history. Even their building, the Mike Hardy building where it used to be the Dixie Bar, it's just so much history along all around it.
Mr. Brinkley, do you think, I know that I see you walking, do you think that you could just walk and talk and take a few pictures with your camera? Walk and talk and take a few pictures. Let us know exactly while you're on the ground. I'm here at the corner of so-and-so. This is Mr. Rozier's house, or this is where Miss Carter used to be, or this is where Mr. Curtin Francis used to be, or this is where Miss Gertrude Walden started the school. Just walk and talk and just take a picture, even of what's there now. Take a picture and walk and talk and put it in your phone, please.
Okay.
We'll show you how to email it to us. You can just come, Jordan will take it from you. Okay?
You gonna take?
Commissioner, thank you. I was just wanting to ask a question about the Spectrum School.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
that is Martin County School District. So would there be, and I don't know, the meeting of the minds or about putting a plaque or something? I don't know what's there now, if there's anything that represents.
They have it, East Stewart Trading Center, founded 1931 or something. They just have that one sign there, but that's something that can be worked on. I did call Mr. Main, and I was supposed to have been talking to him. I went away in July, went away in August, went away in September, and so I haven't followed up on some things I've promised. I've been meeting with a few people to try to get some, but yeah, I'll definitely talk to them. That might be, people love East Stewart Training School, Stewart Training, STS. People love that, and I know that you have the Mr. and Mrs. White, but people would love to have STS recognized, maybe by one of the blue and yellow plaques that we have. We put them on the churches. It's another thing on Church Street that we can do. We still didn't do Jerry Gore's church. He was supposed to be scheduled, and I think he got sick, and there were some other things going on. But Stewart Training School and Jerry Gore's church, that's a focus on Church Street, and we can work on Church Street because, like you said, Martin Luther King Boulevard is going to come with we really have to get active in figuring out what we want to do, how we're going to put some things there along Martin Luther King, and helping also that when she gets ready to put her budget together, she has some ideas of what to put in there and how we can work things together. But yeah, definitely, this will push me to try to talk to Mr. Maine, hopefully before school finishes.
Okay, so I guess with the fact that it is part of their government, that even if we had a plaque, or if they decided, like you say, get rid of the place, Stuart's Training School would not be represented at all on that site because they own that, if I'm understanding you
No,
correctly.
I mean, that's something that, I don't think that they're gonna literally get rid of the buildings or anything, but they might have some changes or do some things. But we'll figure that out. I'll get you a good answer to that. Okay?
All right, and so also, before you go, if, from my understanding, do all of us need to reapply on the website for, these positions aren't vacant?
Okay, our expert is here, that is Mary Kindle, the clerk.
I
Expert.
miss Mary.
I'm sorry, I was talking about something here, I didn't hear the.
Do we have to reapply because these positions aren't what considered as vacant right
It's
now?
not necessarily filling out a new application. It is, if the person who is your appointee, or, you know, your liaison, wants to continue to have you serve on the board this next year, there's nothing you necessarily need to do. They'll just communicate with you at some point to make sure you want to stay on the board as well. But other than that, if you want to switch boards and move to another board, then it would be another application.
Okay, so you mean the person that appointed us, like
Yes.
the commissioners or whomever, we need to talk to them?
Express to them that you're interested in staying on this
Correct.
board.
Correct.
Okay.
And usually we ask them to reach out to you as it comes closer to that meeting so that they communicate with you. It's vice versa. You can call them as well.
Because I don't remember who,
We'll send it out. We'll send it out.
I don't know.
I know people have been concerned because both Betty and Albert, and I know that they provide different information or different, they all have their own unique way of doing things, but people have asked me, they're the Brinklers, and I said, yeah, they're not only the Brinklers, but they're related to each other. And so I don't think we have do we have any prohibition against that on the board? It's just an advisor board.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as long as you keep your sunshine guidelines and so on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions. I don't have any other.
Yeah, I did, do you don't need anything else?
No.
I must say this, and I wish that I was here in front of 10,000 people, but we started, it was hard to get this, you weren't here at the time, probably, to get this resolution going and to get this East Stewart Committee going. And people were wondering, what is it gonna do? Is it, usually we have the CRB or something else that advises regarding some land use or zoning, and somebody's saying, what are they gonna do? And if it's from year to year, what if the commission just wants to drop them and doesn't do it anymore, or whatever will happen? And so we just have to continue with the duration of this committee. We update them every year, because I don't think we have a, it's not really a charter thing.
Well, I think we amended a lot of the bylaws for all the advisory boards, so it's on an annual renewal basis. Just like Commissioner Clark said, they're gonna, I guess the procedure is for them to reach out to you, but you can always reach out to them and say, hey, I'm definitely want to stay on.
And as long as Mary has it on the list, then we'll know that this committee is gonna go on. I don't wanna bring it up in front of the commission and say, they're hearing me now, it's in the public, because somebody has said, well, wanna get rid of this committee, that committee, the other committee. So this committee is doing its work, and I must say, like I said, if I were in front of 10,000, it would be that you guys are really working hard on what you're doing. And I think that you're trying to understand everything that you need to do. Oh, Ms. Grant is here, so I'll stay up here. But it's just, all we need right now is some content. Please, Mr. Brinkley, get out and walk, because sometimes when you're walking and reflecting, just grab your phone and talk to yourself. I don't know if you know how to do a selfie thing or whatever, but do that, the talking and record it to yourself, and it really helps to have that done. Because like I said, that McCarty building that used to be the pharmacy downstairs and living upstairs. And I remember Mr. Christie, I think, was on the commission at the time. And I thought for sure that they were gonna try to keep that building and get some grant to do it. Didn't happen, and I think the fire department used it as an example. When Mr. Rozier's house was there, I thought we were gonna try to work and keep it. So we need to continue to work, and we don't want Mr. Scott's house to go down. We don't want his other house that Mr. Harvey has to go down. We just need to make sure that we continue to keep these buildings and that they stay in the community. Jerry Gore tried hard when he bought that house from Miss Merrick's, and he uses that house, the Allen House, and so it is so important that we take pride in those things and we deal with them. Miss McCard, Miss Grant. So we were talking, because they're saying that they may not have another meeting for November and December. And I know that since July or so, we've been talking about trying to pick a time where we just kind of recognize the mural that's on the side of your building. And I know that you were doing some repairs or changes or something. So I wasn't sure if your building was open to the public now or if you wanted to wait till next year. But at some point, we do need to recognize that mural and just have a day where people talk and bring up remembrances and use it as a historical time. Maybe we can do it as one of the days in Black History Month in February. I don't know. February is not my favorite month, because with the weather the way that it is now, we're probably going to have a very cold February, because February sometimes really gets cold and the weather changes. Martin County Fair time, it's always, the weather always messes up during the Martin County Fair. But, you know, we can do something.
There have been delays, so now the projected date is November, sometime in November. So we're going to hold a grand opening type thing where all will be welcome, but it would be nice to collaborate and do something like that as well. So, yeah, so the estimated time is around November.
Okay, so I think we probably do that when you have your grand opening then. So you let us know when you're doing your grand opening, and we'll just try to do a historic thing. And I don't know, that's the Ells Lounge property. We haven't put any of our yellow and blue markers along Martin Luther King, but you said you didn't want to do anything along Martin Luther King because, so maybe we'll recognize it as a place that in the future will be highlighted, because that's there. That's not the oldest building along that street, but it's one of.
It's one, because I have seen a picture with a horse-drawn carriage
In front of it?
in front of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's old.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have seen that person in a horse-drawn carriage in front of
yeah,
Dixie Bar.
yeah.
And
At Dixie Bar,
Noel
yeah.
Lounge,
Yeah,
Dixie Bar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One more question for you, Commissioner. With Mr. Tom Allen house there around by me,
1938.
but also his house down the road from me, which his daughter
Miss Merrick.
is married, staying in. Keep in mind that's, I don't know why both of them wasn't done at the same time, because that's history too, because before Mr. Tom Allen bought that, Mr. Georgia Boy had owned and lived in that house. So that's a lot of history.
Put that on your list, Miss. We need a
Okay.
list paper.
I just wanted to correct you, Georgia boy. His real name was
James
Hall.
Hall.
Yes. Sneaky.
We had two James Hall.
Yes, sir.
The police.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
As far as the Stuart Trading School, Mr. Harvey is involved with that. Miss Julie Priest and Captain Jones are working on creating the narrative for a documentary, and also putting together a list of people that they want to interview for the documentary. So that is something that is going on in the background. Julie Priest had to do a lot of research on that, so she's still working on that. But that should be a good starting point to do a narrative for the marker in the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I want, like I said, go back again and look at the ordinance that created this committee as to your role and your responsibilities. And I want, when you do that, please remember, especially when it comes to Black history in Stuart and in Martin County, please remember that Mr. Lloyd Jones' group is a resource and something that we need to continue to dovetail with. And whatever information we find about East Stuart, we need to make sure that we get that information. It will help with what we're doing here, but it's gonna help with the bigger picture of Martin County history and what's happening. So, and Mr. Harvey is like totally excellent in doing videos and movies, and if he does the movie, I wanna be a star in it, but. But he has done so much work with the Port Salerno School, the Miss Costello Williams Learning Center. And if we could do something like that here with the Stewart Training School, and hopefully at some point, like I said, if we have that other group, that's a community group that can work more with the historic group as well as the school board, so that if we have something, we can have a tour on a Saturday or something and have somebody available and whatnot. But that's way down the road, but that's the kind of thing that we want to do to make sure that we have that rich history preserved in our community.
May I just let the record show that Board Member McCarty Grant arrived at 4:32 p.m.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything, and please come see me anytime, talk to me about anything, and let me know if you want me to bring up something to this commission, and you can come on that day when I'm gonna bring it up, so that we know that, you know, whether it's something that you wanna push forward. It's always important to have that. So let's do that.
Commissioner, I do have, just was thinking when you were speaking, I want to make sure, you mentioned the Martin County Heritage, Mr. Jones's group. Are we to think about that as a entity that we're collaborating with, or are we going back to what this board is representing for East Stewart to remain focused on what it is written out? I don't want to know, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out, are we doing the same thing? Because.
No, you have a duty to do something for East Stewart. We're putting it up on our website, but all of these things can always be available. Mr. Harvey's on the board. He knows how to coordinate things and how to bring things back and forth, but just bear in mind that there's a Martin County Heritage Society, and when we discover information or we compile information, some of that information may be used to get another grant for Martin County to create a heritage trail, and Stewart will be a part of it. So just, you know, you're doing your thing because the commission has given you a role to do something, but as a regular citizen, you can do all kinds of other things. Maybe Mr. Phillip can explain it better.
You explained it right. We all play an important part, but history is very important. You've got to have the knowledge of history. Stewart Training School was the educational component for blacks in Martin County, but the educational facility is located in Stewart. But the county-wide black community all migrated here to get an education, and they shared their educational knowledge, and they did things in each and every community. You had the elementary part of the educational component. Each school, each community had a elementary part. Salerno had the one-room schoolhouse. Gomez had a facility, one-room schoolhouse. Hope Sound had a one-room schoolhouse. Indian town, but when they became, got into sixth grade, fifth and sixth grade, they migrated to Stuart. It was the educational component. That's where you got your high school education installed into you. And whole Martin County participated.
See,
As
I
you,
didn't know that. I didn't even know they were different. See, that's where there's a lot of history
Right.
that we don't
a
know.
lot of people don't know. Each community had a starting point, which was the elementary component, and they were not big buildings. They were elementary, first through fifth grade. And the only existing facility that is established right now is the one-room schoolhouse in Port Salerno.
It's still-
And we're working and turning that into a museum, working with the county, the school board, to make that an educational component and possibly a museum with artifacts. And we're collecting all various types of artifacts that we're going to store in there. So when kids and the community, they will walk through that facility and see historical, and we have images of individuals who attended that school. We had many of them who played a great part in the development of the school system here in Martin County. Mr. David Anderson, Ms. Costello William, they were part of that one-room schoolhouse. So we all are playing a great part. So that's why I say, learn your history, learn the people, and coming to meetings like this is where you're going to learn additional things about the community, those names in there, because there are a lot of strange names in there you don't know anything about. But you will learn that they played a very important part of this community.
Right. And so as a committee, you're doing what you need to do, whatever Pinal and Jordan is asking you to do so that we can highlight East Stewart on the city's website and so on. But there's also the Martin County Black Heritage Association.
Initiative.
That initiative, sorry, my old group, but the Black Heritage Initiative, you can get involved with Mr. Lloyd Jones and get involved because they want to include Stuart is a part of like a Black Heritage Trail through Martin County that goes through the state of Florida whenever the time comes for that. But that's something that you get involved with at another level, in another way. And somebody like Philip has handled both things nicely. He's a property owner here in Stuart, and he does a lot of stuff in Martin County. He's created videos and invited speakers and done things for that group. And anything that we have here will be information that can be used. They could probably access the information that we put together from the website. And they might ask us to set a place in Stuart, like that will be like a little main thing that would say if somebody came to Martin County and wanted to see something typical of African-American life, heritage in Stuart, this is where they would go. Would they go to the Guy Davis Park and read all the things that are on the plaque? Would they go to the corner of Church Street and East Avenue and do something? Would they go to the Martin Luther King and East Avenue and do something? Or would they go to the Murray House right by the railroad track? Whatever it is, but that's something that Lloyd Jones and his group, they would work through some of those things. They have a lot of different things that they're doing. One of their biggest things now is the National Historic Register, but getting money for a trail and working with the state of Florida. And the state of Florida does have us do our history, but not everything that you hear on the news is there's a statute, but there's all this stuff that's gone on, but I'm not gonna even bring that up now, but we're supposed to be doing our history.
I think you was more concerned as were we doing the same thing
Yes.
as what she was doing.
What you're doing, they can take that information from you.
Okay.
Don't worry about it, this is all about Stuart.
Okay.
Yeah, that was,
And another thing too, if you want that's important, whenever he's better, I don't know, he wasn't well the last couple of times I saw him, but you can actually, that might be a good thing, Ms. Pinal, for this group, maybe just to have Mr. Jones come talk to you a little bit, because he has done a lot of research, and he has a certain way to get research and this is how you can gather and collect data. He might get one of his specialists who does that, but they've had people from FAU, and
Yes.
they've had so many specialists. They've had people from the state of Florida that have sent people down with, what you call that, audio, visual, to interview people and to do things. There's a whole bunch of stuff that has happened. But if you can just give us 5 businesses, 5 names, 5 churches, 5 buildings, whatever it is, let's just start somewhere, okay?
All right, thank you, Commissioner Clark. Thank you, Attorney. Thank you.
I don't need to prolong, but I will add that prior to being the city attorney, I was an assistant county attorney, and I did work with Mr. Jones. I don't remember speaking to him personally, but maybe with his attorney, with the new Monrovia School. It was a contract. He has the Black Heritage Initiative entity had us a contract with the county to maintain hours as a museum at the new Monrovia School. And I recall when I was there, Bring Your Kids to Work Day, I brought my daughters to work, and they took us on a tour, and one of the stops was the new Monrovia School. And it is like a little museum inside with photographs, and I'm forgetting the longstanding teacher that they were they were celebrating her, and there was a lot of information about her and the impact she had on our kids, but our adults now, through the years. I think there was one, she was there for like 50 years, I think, teaching. But if you haven't been over there, I'd recommend going. I was fascinated. We spent a couple hours there and learned about it. I never even knew it was there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've been here almost 30 years, so like often.
Created by Mr. Philip Harvey.
Are they open to the public? I mean, I've not ever been in there, and I
Well, we
was
have,
born
like-
here.
Like just a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago, they had the Bahamian Festival. We opened up during that particular time. And upon request, when the school, and we're working closer now with Murray Middle School to collaborate with them. And so we will be opening it up for when they do something, to do the history of Murray Murray Middle School. So
It's right next to, the county owns it's on the park, so Parks and Recreation at
Yes.
county, and that was one of the departments I handled as an assistant county attorney. And so they have an after-school care for kids in the building next door, so they can't do too much during certain times of the day, because there's a bunch of kids there for the after-school care. And there's a park there, so, and there's a building with bathrooms, and it's like for the after-school care for kids from Murray Middle, they go there until their parents get out of work or whatnot, so. But I know they were trying to have regular hours to have the museum, but I know, like Philip said, that they have certain events that they scheduled to have there as well. But
Well, that's good. Thank
they
you.
still have the little desks in there. I don't think they're original. I think a bunch of kids, if I recall, in a workshop made.
Martin
the
County
little-
High School students.
Okay,
built it.
see, I remembered. So they created little desks, and I remember, little wooden desks for little kids, and it was fascinating to see. I recommend going down there.
Thank
I just
you.
have to see it.
Or maybe we can do a field trip if we're still together next year as a group, but that would be great to go. Thank you, Attorney, to go and take a look at. And that can give us ideas too, as to our future as we move forward with our phases 1, 2 through 5 for our East Stewart Heritage Committee, as well as East Stewart in the Guy Davis Park and the MLK Streetscape. So I thank you, Commissioner Clark, for your reviews on that, and Attorney for enlightening us. Thank you, Mr. Harvey, to know that you're still at it, as I can remember from a little girl that you've always been one in the community as an activist and helping make sure our history's told. And the Brinkley family and the McCarty families always played a major role. So as Commissioner Clark mentioned, that maybe we should write down, this could be homework for us to come back and gather in our next meeting in 2025 to have a list of look at this, what Mr. Harvey gave us, and pick out the families, maybe 5 or 10, wherever you want to start, everybody come back with 2 or 3, and it's what, 5 of us, do the math. And that means we should be able to cover a lot of land if we each come back with 3 families that we've highlighted, that we'd like to start investigating and making sure we're recognizing as we go forward.
Madam Chair, I already had mine from day one. I got a list. Yeah, I got my list because I sit down and I, reflect back on those days, and I just write down what such here, this person there. So I got my list written.
So you're ready.
Miss, Madam Chair,
Yes.
and since we're all passing away like flies every day, even if you don't have all the information, go talk to Mr. Jones or Mrs. Brown or Mrs. somebody. Just go talk to them and just tape them for a few minutes, just so that we have something. It's so important. It may not be a big professional thing, but at least we know that we've talked to Mr. Jones or Mr. whoever before they pass away. Because you may not have all the stuff, and you may not have it, but they will pull out, this is when Mr. Murray gave me this. And you're like, oh, I didn't know you had that kind of photograph. So yeah, please go talk to some people. Let's give a Christmas gift to ourselves, and the next couple of months, let's get something down. Either get some pictures, get some video, get some audio, and so that we have something to really work with. And we don't have to wait until the next meeting. If we even have anything, just ship it off to Pinal, either email it or text it, whatever, if it's a picture. But if it's audio, you can save the audio, and if you know how to send it by email, you can send it in so that she knows what you have and what you're looking at. But please, let's get that list so that we can compare things. I don't know. Did you want to speak to me, Ms. Brinkley, or you? No.
I would
thought
like
you were
someone
addressing
to,
something.
Go ahead. Sir.
I would like someone to, Gloria Howard. Gloria Howard knows, my neighbor, knows a lot of stuff. And she needs to be sit down with and recorded. She knows a lot of the history there. She really does. I stand and talk with her a lot. She knows a lot of history.
Well, yeah, we'll talk to her, and we take long with these meetings, but I'm thinking that if it would help to invite some of those people
Yeah.
to these meetings, they might feel welcome that you're asked. Sometimes it's all it takes to get something from somebody, not that you want to put somebody to work, but it's just asking them. They feel the importance of it, and that it's something that's important to the community, and they will put the time and effort to go find those photographs and whatnot and get it together. I know that Dr. Grant has promised me that she would try to pull some things together, but it takes time. Even her father has a lot of history, and she's right there, but it does take time to just ask somebody to help you with something. So let's ask Gloria and see what she has. Even if she has, like some people, I know that when we had the Smith Turner Park, even if somebody has an old letter or something from somebody who was in the military back in 67 or whatever, or 75, and you may not think it's important, but it is, because it shows you what the state of the community was at the time. So and somebody may just want to share that and talk about it. So every time you meet somebody, let's talk to them and see what we can get, and see if we can get something done. Thanks.
I thank you again, Commissioner. I do, and I'm asking Ms. Pinal and the attorney, and Jordan's not here. I have information that I was going to send to Jordan that we've done for our family in East Stuart, the Hamilton Turner family, and the pioneers that came here, which are my grandparents, and the mentioned the WSTU, my brother Walter Oden. Segregation during that time. We have footage and we have documentation and we have recordings So we just kind of got it completed last weekend. But I want to make sure that I'm sending it for our website, when I say City of Stuart, that it goes in that part where they click on, and go to pull up East Stuart and you have the pictures. Is there a part in there where you can also upload the videos where I've done all of that footage?
Yeah, we can add videos. We'll work with.
Okay, so
If you can
Ms.
provide the
Jordan's
information,
not here,
we'll-
so should I send you the email?
Yeah,
and
just
Jordan?
send me the.
I think I spoke to you about
Yeah,
that.
you said you were gonna
Yeah.
provide something in or maybe OneDrive and send something to me.
Right, I was gonna just download it on a flash
right.
drive or send it through Dropbox.
Yeah, Dropbox, yeah.
So is that what I'm hearing that we want, and that we're saying, talk to these families? We have places where our family home was on Church Street, back in the day. I wasn't born, but the information is there.
Yeah, so I feel like there's different components, right? There's a website, so that information will go on the website. And then we're trying to do memorial markers, so that's a separate project. And then there's a museum where we can recognize folks. So, of course, your information will upload it in a website, but some information might need to would be part of the memorial marker. So it just depends on what material we're talking about, what project we're talking about.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I get that to you all.
Sure.
And then we can sort out, like you said, where it should be,
Yeah.
if it's going to be at a museum or whatever.
And that's an ongoing effort. So anytime you have information, that's an ongoing effort.
Right.
Anybody can submit information to me or Jordan, and we'll continue updating the website. So that does not stop.
That doesn't stop, it's
Yeah.
a working tool.
This is a little bit more work as far as historic markers, because that requires like specific, committee to decide what are the priority locations and buildings and sites where I need your input. The other information is just available to anybody on the website.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So if I had a lot of information today, so I don't know what's coming back, what's going to be on the agenda for upcoming next, hopefully, committee. We've laid out the landmark here, and I don't know if we're going to have as an agenda item moving forward in 2025 to continue with the identifying of the markers. This is still going to be there. Also, the information that was shared with identifying the sites and evidence that Mr. Harvey brought forward, Mr. Brinkley has. Ms. McCarty, thank you for joining us, and I know you're busy, but thank you again for being here. So I don't know what our agenda is going to look like for 2025, but I think we have a great start.
I think this is a good start. I think it's a continuation of this discussion. As Ms. Clark, Commissioner Clark mentioned, maybe next time, if you can come up with the 5 buildings or something that you would like to recognize. I would like to have that information up front, because then we can identify it on the map, address and where it is on the map. And then let's say, based on everybody submits 4 or 5 locations that they think are, significant to the community, then we have a list of 20 properties, and then the committee can prioritize those. And then, so that way, like Ms. Commissioner Clark mentioned, that nobody gets offended, that why are we recognizing the white family over green family? The committee can say, we looked at a group of, properties, and this is how we prioritized it.
Okay.
And then once you prioritize it, then we have to make sure the property owners are in agreement to have something in front of their property. And then we have to make sure that we're able to collect the content and the photos. So that, and sometimes we might not be able to get something, so then that will fall off the list.
Okay. And if that's the case, somewhere when we get a place, kind of a place of existence, even in the park, as we were talking about, we can still include those names, like what Mr. Harvey did. I think we need to look at that zone, let that be kind of a guide as well as the directory. And even if we can't get the evidence because for whatever reasons, they're not here
Right.
anymore, we can still recognize them on a big plaque, That should be part of that park, Mr. Harvey. That should be a place where a statue is, and
Right.
Yeah, directory, you know, so we don't want to miss that opportunity that people can go there and say, oh, that was my great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, you know, but I just don't want that to be missed.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
very important what he's done.
Yeah.
And thank you again, Mr. Harvey and Mr. Brinkley, all of you. And happy holidays in case I don't see you again.
Madam Chair, can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm from old school, so Rome wasn't built in a day. But I know that Pinal just mentioned about talking to Mr. Kralski, but I think that I'm going to try to talk to him and see what's going on with the community center over there, whether the trailers or a room in the building, because we could probably start stockpiling now and put in some things so that we can have, even if it's to have one display coming up in February, working with other community groups, to have a room with some things in it. And maybe we can start doing that and stockpiling, and that might be the beginnings of a museum, to have some pictures and some things there on the wall. I'd say this, there was a woman who just came to me. She's a musician, but she just brought this to me, and I'm gonna look at the history of it, but this is a tile or coaster with Dr. Martin Luther King. And so there's so many things and so many people who have interest. She heard that the meeting was here today, and she says, if you're gonna be there, I'm gonna bring this to you. So, that's okay, Ms. Brinkley, thank you. So I just know that there's so many things that we can do, and maybe I will check to see how things are going over there at 10th Street and see if we can try to make a room, a little Black History room. They have a library thing there, so I'm going to talk to Mr. Kralski about it and see what we're doing there.
Thank you. That would be marvelous. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, my grandbaby.
Oh,
I
yeah,
forgot
I know
my
you have to pick
grandbaby.
up your daughter from school. Well, I don't know if we have anything else, but again, thank everybody, and I don't know if I'm following protocol here, but what's next on the, do we need to make a motion or do
You
anything?
can just adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn, okay. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My grandbaby wonder where I am. 2 hours late.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
You in
get out of
trouble.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.